Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight. Please like, favourite and subscribe. I'm here on another drive with me. I forgot my mic today, so you're going to have to put up with probably road noise and the sun rising behind me. But we are here to talk about the Ipswich game tonight, and a more to a point of a couple of shorts that I made yesterday about Ineos, the finances, the redundancies, the cost cutting. And I want to caveat this before I get into any of that financial talk, that I don't agree with anything Ineos are doing at the club. I'm just putting a different perspective on it from potentially the way they see the club's finances and how bad they are. This doesn't mean I'm on board with what Jim, Ineos, the Glazers, Barada, whoever else are doing around the club. It just is a little bit of balancing about maybe why they need to do it. But first, the Ipswich game. Apparently there's some news out there that Cheeto is going to start. I don't really have a problem with that. Ipswich are a so-called poor side. If you're going to play a kid in a Premier League game, it's one you want to play him in. The caveat to that is, we're as crap as Ipswich, if not worse. It's a game we're almost looking at right now, where looks like I've got a mask on with the sun, but it's a game we're looking at now that it's almost like we're in that relegation battle, even though we're not going to get relegated, that we need points, and this is a game where we should expect to get points. So can we start taking the risks of doing things like this in games where we desperately need points? On the caveat to that, another caveat is Højlund is useless. And somebody said on another channel that I watched yesterday that he's not scored for 16 games. He's had 2 goal involvements, or scored 2 goals all season. Edison, Man City's goalie, has got as many goal involvements this season, in their worst season in a long time, as Højlund's got as Man United striker. And yes, you're all going to talk about service. And I've said this before, yes, strikers need service, but they also have to create things for themselves. They've got to be better at hold-up play, to bring others into play, to give them service. They've got to make runs that are not clung to a defender. They've got to get in the box when the ball goes in the box, if anything. Højlund does none of them. And I've said on another channel that Højlund's getting away with it because the fan base is another one that the fan base like. He hasn't scored in 16 games. People are starting to talk about how poor he is. Can I remind everyone, when they say how he had a decent season last season, he didn't score for 15 games when he came to the club. Then he scored 6 or 7 games in a row and then didn't score again till the back end of the season. And all of the goals in between were versus a load of crap in the Champions League group stages. His first season wasn't good either. Yes, he's young. Yes, people say he might turn out to be a decent striker. People say Harry Kane wasn't doing this at his age. Gyökeres wasn't doing this at his age. They didn't cost 75 million quid at 20 years old. They went off on loan to Coventry and Luton and places like that to learn. And yes, you can blame Man United for the money, but the facts are, he cost us £75 million and he can't hit a barn door. Somebody said apparently Napoli are after getting him as a second striker or backup striker to Lukaku, and that might help him. How will Lukaku help frigging Rasmus when he's got a first touch that's worse than Lukaku's? And look, I like Rasmus as a lad, and I think his effort is there, and he clearly wants to be at the club, but the facts are he's just not good enough. And we have to get over this player favouritism malarkey, because that's what got the last two managers sacked. Ollie and Eric both got sacked for player favouritism, and now we think it's okay in the fan base to have favourites. And Martinez, Bruno and Delo are all favourites as well with managers, and I don't think any of them are good enough either. Martinez is injured again for the third time in 3 years. He's got a long time injury. I don't care what you think about him, he's got to leave the club. And he obviously won't because he's injured, but when he comes back, he'll just get injured again. He's another Luke Shaw. He's had too many bad injuries to ever be consistently fit again. Mount, you all know I like Mount. He's a joke at this point. He has got to go as well. Shaw would be number one on my out list in the summer. I know everyone rattles on about Casemiro and this, that and the other. He's on 200 odd grand a week or round about there and doesn't ever play. At least Casemiro's on the bench available. Shaw is a total and utter disgrace to this club. I'm sick of people letting him off because they say he's a good player when he's fit. The guy's never fit. He's a joke. Get him out now, basically. But that's my slight player rant. The Ipswich game, I think we'll probably win it. 1-0, 2-0. I think we'll be... There's two things that'll happen. We'll either play quite well and win fairly comfortably, and everyone will say that what's been going on and Amorim slating the players in his press conferences and everything, have we turned a corner? I can tell you the answer to have we turned a corner before we've kicked a ball. No, we haven't. It is Ipswich. We're expected to beat them 2 or 3-0. I don't care if Onana turns into Messi against Ipswich and Bruno Fernandes turns into prime Zidane. They're not back. We haven't turned a corner. They're still crap. It is Ipswich. As I'm stuck here in this traffic, got to get out of it. Yeah, it's Ipswich. We're expected to beat it, but then there's the other hand to that whole conversation that Ipswich could easily beat us. All the relegation teams that we say are too crap to ever get out that relegation zone have all given us a game. Leicester we beat with an offside goal. Southampton both times should have probably beaten us, and we got away with one where they missed a penalty, and the second one Ahmad had 10 minutes where he scored a hat-trick and got us out of a hole. You know, it's not good, is it? Who else is down there? Ipswich, Leicester. I can't remember the other team. That's how crap they are. But we won't have played well against them, will we? Oh, God, who is it? My brain's got a blank. It's too early. I'm not used to being up this early. But my point is, we're no better than them. If they go a goal ahead, we could easily score 2 late goals again, like we always do, and turn up once we go a goal behind, like we did against Everton. Come back and everyone's like, oh yeah, we showed spirit, we showed character again. How about you show character from minute 1 and don't go behind? Because they haven't got it in them. Amorim said, he knows, the players know, the fans know, there's not enough intensity. I said it in my last video, we're the slowest, most lethargic team in the Premier League. On and off the ball. This isn't just in running power off the ball. On the ball, we are pedestrian as well. The whole team takes too many touches, they're too slow. There's no options for people, there's no movement. And I don't know how you solve that. The profile of player is all wrong, that's the problem. Lazy, old, slow, past it, not technically good enough, whatever you want to say, they're not good enough at it. So what do I think the score will be against Ipswich? I think it'll be one of them games where we win it with a crap performance. So I'm going to go 1-0, 2-1, 2-0 Man United. I just don't see us losing to Ipswich, but then we could easily lose to Ipswich. I don't know, but I'm going to go for a win. And on the Ineos talk, the money, the redundancies, the cost cutting, the whatever, ticket prices, I'm not saying any of these things are good. Redundancies never good. Where I work, there's redundancies all the time. It's not a nice thing. The caveat to that, and I love the word caveat today, is that we are running a business that's clearly bloated, and Ineos need to save money for many reasons. And a few of them I'm going to lay out here right now as reasons why every bit of money saved matters. Whether you like it or not, we have lost money for 5 years in a row. For the last 3-year FFP cycle, we've lost more than 300 million. To be inside FFP rules, you can only lose 105 million. Jim Ratcliffe came into the club, bought part of it for 1.3 billion. None of that was reinvested by the Glazers, so you can't blame Ineos for that. And then Ratcliffe put 250 million of his own money into the club, which is basically, nobody mentions this, but it's basically going to stop us from getting a point stock because of FFP. Because even with all this cost cutting that Ineos are doing now, we were not going to make FFP rules unless we go round before the end of the actual date, which I'm not sure when the rules restart for the next year. We sell a load of players, which is why Garnacho, Mainu, they're all on the chopping block. It's why they're getting rid of the high wages, because they need to make up this £200 million deficit somehow. And the thing I will defend Ineos on, and again I'm not defending them, but there's a reason why I'm saying this, is the people need to forget we were ever getting Qatar. Sheikh Jassim, nobody ever saw the guy. Nobody knew if he was real or not. He seemed to never produce proof of funds, where the money was coming from, that it was available. That's two things. Three, and the main point is, even if he had the money, the Glazers were not selling to him. So, what would you rather have? Ineos, a so-called Man United fan, an English guy, or somebody like that Carlyle Group, an American investment company who absolutely would have worked alongside the Glazers, and they would not have been put in charge of football matters, and we'd still have Murto and Arnold at the top. There's one thing you can say about Ineos, if nothing else, is they are trying to change the way we run the club on the pitch. Transfer-wise, you could see it in the summer. They've got Barada, Vival, Wilcox. Yes, the Dan Ashworth thing was stupid. The Ten Hag thing was a mistake. They're cutting the wage bill. They're buying players that seem to fit a profile and a certain wage structure. All of these things Ineos are doing are things that an investment company would not have done. They would have gone in, give the Glazers the money, sat by the sides and be taking dividends out. Jim, as part of this takeover or partial takeover, stopped dividends being taken out of the club. People still say they're taking dividends. They're not. Jim put an end to the Glazers and Ineos taking dividends out of the club. So they are doing some things that are positive. It's just every small thing that comes out every day at the moment is a huge negative. The canteen, the redundancies, the cutting the charity money, the cutting the legends money, cutting staff, cutting Christmas bonuses, you know, everything, all these little trivial things just are a really poor look for Ineos. back to the redundancy point, and I see a lot of other channels saying, how do they save this much when the average workforce salary is probably whatever, 40k a lot of them seem to use for some reason. There's probably a lot of people on a lot more that are up for redundancy and a lot less than 40k within Man United, but let's say the average is 40k. Couple of things on this, right? They're employed by Man United, so it's not just £40,000 per staff member. They will have to pay pension on top, and I'm talking about Man United here. Will have to put into a work-based pension, probably somewhere in between 5 and 9% of the wages, so 5 and 9% of 40 grand on top into a pension. There'll be share schemes, there'll be bonuses, there'll be stuff like flexible working benefits, like stuff people who are not in big companies won't know about, like, I don't know, cycle to work schemes, subsidised learning, you know, stuff like that. There'll be other benefits. There's infrastructure to pay for people, to pay for remote working, to pay for offices, to pay for electricity. And I know it's not direct a people thing, but you need places for these people to actually work, and the more staff there is, the bigger spaces you need for them to work. So infrastructure is one. Training. People don't take training into account, but training costs companies money to train people. All of this stuff adds up. So a person who's on £40,000 a year probably costs double that to have in the business over a year. There's other stuff like holiday pay, sick pay. You know, there's all sorts that goes alongside employing a person into a business that adds cost. That's something I just wanted to say on the redundancy thing, and about people saying, well, the average is only 40,000, so how do they get to this inflated figure when it's only 40,000? That's how. Because from every person you employ, there's probably double the cost in keeping them employed. And the other thing, and the last point I'm going to make on the whole Ineos situation is, and it's a bit like the Carlyle Group, another American investment group coming in, whatever, is what if they would have come in, they wouldn't have put their own money into the club. We'd have been going back to the credit card, the rolling debt. We'd have put another 200 million quid on the debt on the club in the summer to pay for players, not out of anyone's pocket. Ineos have come in, basically found out the club's in an actual financial mess and are trying to sort it out. So a lot of people, on one hand, moan about the debt, the finances, how far we are in the hole with the finances, and just talk about, well, if you got rid of Casemiro, that covers loads more than all these other cuts. Yes, it does. But the facts are, they both should be cut if we're in that massive financial hole. The problem I'm having is, basically what I'm saying is, people contradict themselves. Hypocrites. Because on one hand they say about how bad the club's finances are, we need to somehow get out of this hole, how we're going to spend in the summer, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, how we're going to afford this. But then somebody comes into the club who actually gets hold of the finances and is tearing everything down to make sure we're a profitable club, and they get torn apart. So on one hand you're saying sort the finances out, and on the other hand you're saying, but don't do it in any way that makes the club look bad. And I'm afraid they just don't go together. And like I say, I'm not supporting these ticket price changes. I'm not supporting the redundancies. I'm not supporting any of it. But the facts are, how can you expect them to make us a profitable club and one that's within FFP and one that makes money every year, so we're sustainable, so we don't go broke, so we're not massively in debt, so we're not this, that and the other, when they go in and they start doing it and you tear them apart? If they'd have come in and done nothing and spent another 200 million and put it on debt on the club again, you'd all be moaning still. So what I'm really saying is Ineos can't win. The fact and the matter is if these cuts and changes make a difference in 2 to 3 years time and we are back in the top 4 and challenging, the reality is people will look back on this 6 months of Ineos, maybe a year, however long they're doing cuts for, and they will say that actually the club needed that. And that's just the reality of a failing, bloated business that's losing money left, right and centre. What are you going to do? Just continue to run it losing 100 million a year? Or are you going to cut that 100 million somewhere and make us a profitable business again? And that is looking at it from probably how Ineos are looking at it. The actual business proposition of the club, not a fan, not an employee. It's basically running the club with your head, not your heart. And us as fans want it to be run with the heart and do the right thing on and off the pitch for the club, the employees, the staff, everybody involved with the club, the fans, everyone. But the problem is we haven't made money for 5 years. We're 300 million in debt. We're over FFP. We've got £1 billion in outstanding debt on the club and in transfers we've made over the last 3 or 4 years. So what do you want Ineos to do? Come and sit still and do nothing and leave us where we are, or come in and make ruthless changes that put us in a better financial position to move the club forward? Let me know in the comments what you think. I want some rational answers to this. Not, but we shouldn't be doing, this is not on, that's not on. I want to know what your take is business-wise, or what you think if a Carlisle group or another investment group took over. Do you think it would be better? Do you think they would be doing what Ineos are doing, or do you think they'd just be piling more debt on the club, or do you think they would sort the finances out? Because as terrible as Ineos have been for the last probably 3 or 4 months, really, the prior to that wasn't too bad. Do you think long term we will see gain, or do you think Ineos are going to run us into the ground a bit, you could say a bit like how Arsenal have been run under Kroenke, where they spend a bit of money, they just want to stay in the Champions League? Or do you actually think that in the next 5 years, because we're not winning the league in 2028, that's a load of crap, in the next 5 to 10 years, do you think under an Ineos regime we will get back to actually competing for leagues and Champions Leagues? And that is where I'm going to leave the video. Please leave a comment on this, because I'm interested to see, because on the shorts that I did, there's people having a go at me like I'm an Ineos supporter, which I'm not. I'm just trying to talk about it from a different angle that's not like a fan coming from the heart. It's more of a bit of a business chat about the reasons why. And yes, I've watched the Kieran Maguire videos and how he says that a pittance here, 8 grand there, few grand saved doing this doesn't make a difference to the debt. It doesn't. But it makes a difference to the day-to-day running of the club and FFP. The match day revenue by putting tickets up. The match day revenue by putting food up. The cost cutting. It all goes towards overall club profitability. Which means if we're a profitable club, we can afford to buy more players and this, that and the other. And the reality of the fact is, we're all fans and we want the club to be run properly, but 99% of all this is barely even talked about if we're up there where Arsenal and Liverpool and City are competing for the league. It'd all be stories brushed under the carpet because we're doing well on the pitch. You know it, I know it. People would say it in the news. Yes, Man United are cutting 200 jobs. It would be here and gone in a day or two, that news, if we were winning matches. Because we're not winning matches, everything is a total and utter pile-on. The club's a mess on and off the pitch. The finances are a joke. And this is just a chat about the reasons probably why Ineos are doing it. Should it be up to Amorim to answer these questions in press conferences? No, there should be more statements more regularly from the club, Jim and Omar Barada. There is no doubt about that. Barada needs to talk more. Jim talks when he gets caught in an interview for something else and he openly talks. But Barada and Brailsford and all them lot need to start opening the gob and communicating to the fans more often than they are. That is for absolute certain. And I am going this time. Sorry for the video quality, the sound quality, the sun quality. Please like, favourite, subscribe. Remember to leave a comment on your opinion on Ineos and what they are doing with the finances. And try and take your heart out of it. Use your head. There's loads of people out there commenting with the heart. Try and do it on a balanced view about what you think about the cost cutting. Peace.